Part 1. Sulayman. In the early 1500s, the Safavid dynasty began to build a new empire in Persia, which had been divided and full of conflict for decades prior. Their leader, Shah Ismail I, united Persia using the Shia Muslim faith and a strong army made up of Qizilbash tribal warriors. However, their faith often led to wars with Sunni Muslim neighbors like the Ottoman Empire and the Uzbeks. To add to this, after each Shah died, the Qizilbash tribes also fought amongst themselves to gain power. The Safavid Empire reached its peak under Shah Abbas the Great. He became Shah in 1587 after usurping his father, and took full control from the Qizilbash in 1589. Abbas changed how the army worked by replacing disloyal Qizilbash warriors with trained slave soldiers called ghulams. He also built a grand new capital city in Isfahan, and took back land from the Ottomans and Portuguese. After Abbas died in 1629, his son Safi I became Shah. But Safi ruled poorly. He killed or blinded many people in his family and government because he saw them as threats. He avoided ruling the country and spent his time drinking, using drugs, and chasing pleasure. His weak leadership hurt the empire and opened the door to invasions. Luckily, his son, Abbas II, was more responsible. He avoided war and focused on fixing the royal court. Under him, the Safavid Empire thrived. But the strong period of prosperity would not last forever. Abbas II died on October 26, 1666, likely from syphilis. His son, Safi II, became Shah of Iran. Like his father and grandfather, Safi II grew up in the royal harem. He never learned how to rule and showed no interest in ruling. He drank too much, treated others badly when drunk, and wasted money on luxury. Safi II's inexperience made it easy for those in the harem, like eunuchs, wives, and concubines, to control him. As mentioned before, Abbas II had syphilis, which was spreading widely through Persia and Europe at the time. Persia and Europe were also affected by a long period of colder weather, called the Little Ice Age, which brought harsh winters and dry weather. Crops failed, and droughts caused food prices to rise, so many people went hungry. The hardship pushed border tribes like the Afghans and the Baloch to fight for land. If this fighting got out of hand, Safi II would be unable to stop it. The army, once strong, had become weak, hollow, and corrupt during his father's and grandfather's rule. Safi II's health also suffered, likely from his bad habits. Some people thought he had started his rule at a bad time. A court astrologer suggested redoing his coronation. On March 20th, 1668, Safi II was crowned a second time, and took the royal name Sulayman. But this did not change anything. The country still faced disease, hunger, and invasion. Almost immediately, Sulayman decided to seal himself away in the royal harem. He avoided talking to his Grand Vizier and other advisors, which meant that the eunuchs, wives, and concubines of the royal harem were making the important decisions instead. Because Sulayman preferred to talk to his harem instead of his ministers, he got less and less true information. Courtiers only told him good things to avoid punishment, and if someone brought up a serious problem, he ignored it or changed the subject. Most of the time, Suleiman watched magic shows and acrobats, instead of learning about the affairs of his empire. Outside of the harem, Suleiman went on large outings with up to 1,000 women from his harem. He loved these trips and went on 62 of them in just his first 5 months as Shah. Before each ride, he closed off large areas of Isfahan and ordered all adult men to stay off the streets during the outings. Suleiman's guards made sure this happened, and any unfortunate man found outside was punished with death. Interestingly, some people saw Suleiman as peace-loving, as he did not start wars. Even with the country falling apart, no one rebelled either, as Suleiman's predecessors had centralized the state, making the Shah's authority very powerful and hard to challenge. Suleiman ignored requests from Sweden, Poland, Russia, and the Holy Roman Empire to attack the Ottoman Empire. He said he wanted to respect the 1639 Treaty of Suhab, which had ended their last war. Even when former Persian lands like Mesopotamia asked for help, he did nothing. The biggest threats came from nomadic raiders. The Uzbeks of Central Asia had long attacked eastern Persia, but under Suleiman, their raids were small. Another group, the Mongolic Kalmyks, also launched the occasional raid. The Cossacks, who lived in today's Ukraine and southern Russia, raided the Caspian Sea coast. One Cossack leader, Stenka Razin, led a major raid in the late 1660s. Safavid forces forced him to retreat, and Russia's Tsar Alexei sent a delegation to apologize. Later, Razin led a bloody rebellion in southern Russia. He was caught and hanged in Moscow in 1671. Suleiman died on July 29, 1694, at age 46. Some say he had a stroke after drinking too much. Others say gout killed him, since he had been bedridden for 2 years. European visitors often like to describe his lavish lifestyle, but it was clear that this debauchery was a front for a weak and broken empire, one that was now destined to fall. Part 2. Sultan Hussein. When Suleiman died, he had not chosen an heir. His oldest son, Sultan Hussein, aged 26, was quiet, religious, and peaceful. Suleiman liked Hussein, but no one was present when he died to confirm that Hussein would indeed be his heir. Suleiman's aunt, Princess Mariam Begum, who supported Hussein, quickly told the palace eunuchs of Suleiman's death. With their help, Hussein became Shah on August 6, 1694. Hussein, much like his father, grew up in the royal harem and was not trained to rule. He showed little interest in leadership and often replied to officials with a simple, "very well," no matter how grave the issue. Instead, much of Hussein's authority was transferred to a powerful Shia scholar, or ulama, by the name of Muhammad Baqir Majlesi. At first, Majlesi seemed like an effective leader. He enforced strict Islamic Sharia laws, banning drinking, gambling, pigeon flying, women walking alone, and coffee houses across the country. He forced many Sunnis, Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians to follow Shia Islam. He also cracked down on mystical Sufi orders within the empire, even though the Safavid dynasty itself started as one. But Hossein himself did not always follow these rules. He began drinking, influenced by his great-aunt Maryam Begum. He spent too much sponsoring Hajjs to Mecca, and gave away large sums of gold to holy places like Karbala and Mashhad. This drained the royal treasury and left little money for more important matters like the army or the state. Although Majlazi died in 1699, his harsh enforcement of the Shia faith on non-Shiites had lasting consequences. In the northwest, the Sunni Lezgin tribe rebelled and attacked their neighbors. In the southeast, the Sunni Balochis rebelled. Hossein sent a Georgian prince, Gurgan Khan, to stop the Balochis. He crushed the revolt in 1704 and stayed in the nearby city of Kandahar to keep an eye on things. Gurgan ruled harshly, angering the Sunni Afghan Ghilzai tribe who lives nearby. A local Ghilzai nobleman, Mirwais Hotak, started to gain support. Gurgan feared Mirwais and jailed him, sending him to Isfahan. But this was a mistake. While in Isfahan, Mirwais became close to Hossein and saw just how weak the Safavid Empire and its army had become. Hossein eventually let Mirwais go on a Hajj to Mecca. While there, Mirwais obtained a fatwa, a religious ruling against Hossein. In 1709, Mirwais returned to Kandahar and began a revolt. He and his followers killed Gurgan and pushed out the Safavids. Mirwais died in 1715. His brother, Abdulaziz, took over and wanted peace with Hossein. But Mirwais' son, Ahmad, saw this as betrayal. He killed Abdulaziz in 1717 and led an army 10,000 strong to continue his father's fight. Ahmad's destination was Isfahan, but he had to take some cities along the way. Because he lacked siege weapons, trying to capture cities like Kerman and Yazd became long, bloody affairs with no success. In early 1722, he gave up and advanced directly towards Isfahan instead. By March, he was just 22 miles east of the capital. With the Afghan army now within striking distance of Isfahan, Hossein grew desperate. He promised a 6-month tax break to anyone who would fight. Thousands of farmers answered the call, but they had no weapons, only sticks and clubs. Hossein trusted his astrologers to pick a date for the battle, and gave his men a meat stew, hoping it would make them invisible. On March 3rd, the Safavid army, 60,000 strong, left Isfahan to battle Muhammad's smaller force of 10,000 near Golnabad. At first, the Safavid cavalry broke into the Afghan camp. Afghan camel-mounted guns ambushed them. With the cavalry defeated, Muhammad crushed the Safavid center. The Safavid army fell apart, losing up to 12,000 men. Muhammad, having only lost 500 men, now had a clear path to Isfahan. 3 days later, Muhammad surrounded the city. He waited, planning to starve the people, while Hossein stayed in the city, ignoring advice to escape or lead an evacuation. When he asked allies like the Georgians for help, they refused. They had lost faith in him. As months passed, food ran out and famine set in. People ate horses, then rats, and then human flesh, picked from the thousands of dead corpses lining the streets. Angry and starving, people killed some Afghan soldiers looking for food, but it did not stop the siege. Hossein's son and heir, Tahmasp, escaped in June to build a new army, but it was too late. On October 23rd, Hossein gave up. He handed his crown to Mahmud and was taken prisoner. The Afghan army entered Isfahan, and Mahmud took up his place on the Safavid, now Hotak, throne. During the siege, Isfahan's population was reduced from over 500,000 to barely 100,000, and an empire over 200 years old was reduced to rubble. When Isfahan was besieged, outside powers saw chances to take away land from Persia. One of them was Russia, led by Peter the Great. Peter had long wanted to trade with India, but to do that, he needed a presence in Central Asia and Persia. In 1717, Peter sent a diplomat, Artemy Volinsky, to Isfahan. Volinsky made a trade deal, and Russian merchants soon came to Persia. But in 1721, the rebellious Lezgins attacked the town of Shamakhi and killed many Russian traders. Peter saw the fall of Isfahan as a sign that the Ottoman Empire might take Persian land too. He used the sack of Shamakhi as an excuse to intervene, and in 1722, he led 60,000 Russian soldiers into the Caucasus region. By 1723, Russia had captured Derbent, Baku, and Rasht, all near the Caspian Sea. But the people there did not welcome the Russians. The Russian army also struggled with illness, unbearable heat, and poor supply lines. Still, in September, Russia signed a treaty with what was left of the Safavid Empire. Russia took over Persia's Caspian Sea lands, including Gilan. Gilan was rich because of its silk, so this loss further hurt Persia's economy. With Peter taking over Persian lands, the Ottomans worried that he would take too much land from Persia. The Ottomans also saw a war with Persia as a way to distract their people from problems at home. Sultan Ahmed III was busy trying to modernize the empire during what was called the Tulip period. These reforms were expensive and upset many people. A war could bring land, wealth, and attention away from these issues. The Ottomans began their main attack in June 1723. About 30,000 soldiers invaded northwest Persia and the Caucasus. Russia also had troops nearby, raising the risk of war between the two empires. Both sides then agreed to the Treaty of Constantinople in June 1724. Russia kept its land along the southern coast of the Caspian Sea. The Ottomans got parts of western Persia and the Caucasus. From 1723 to 1725, the Ottomans launched 3 major invasions. One army moved into Georgia and took cities like Tbilisi and Gori. Local Georgians fought back from the hills and forests, but lost control by September 1724. Another army entered Azerbaijan. Like in Georgia, locals resisted strongly, but the Ottomans still gained control, though with heavy losses. The Third Army struck western Persia. Cities like Kermanshah and Hamadan fell after long sieges. In Hamadan, its Persian defenders made a homemade cannon with help from a French missionary. They fought hard, but the city fell in September 1724. Other towns soon surrendered. Part 3. Tahmasp II. While Hossein was giving up his crown to Mahmud, His son Tahmasp was crowned Shah Tahmasp II in Qazvin. Mahmud quickly sent soldiers to take the city. By December, Qazvin had fallen, and Tahmasp fled to Azerbaijan for safety. But the Ottomans were invading, so he escaped to Ashgabat near the Caspian Sea. There, the local Kizilbash Qajar tribe and its leader, Fath Ali Khan, helped Tahmasp. By 1725, Mahmud's rule was falling apart. His cousin Ashraf became more popular, so Mahmud imprisoned him. Fearing more rebellion, Mahmud killed around 300 Safavid princes and even hurt Hussein when he was trying to protect his sons. In April, Mahmud's own troops turned against him. They freed Ashraf, stormed the palace, and captured Mahmud. He died soon after, and Ashraf became the new Shah. Meanwhile, Tahmasp wanted to take back Isfahan, but Fath Ali Khan said their army was too weak. He told Tahmasp to go east to Khorasan first. There, a warlord named Malik Mahmud Sistani controlled the city of Mashhad. At the same time, a young man named Nader Qoli was gaining fame in the area. Born around 1698, the son of a shepherd belonging to the Kizilbash Afshar tribe, Nader showed great skill in leadership and battle from an early age. By the 1720s, he had become a small warlord in Khorasan. Tahmasp noticed him and asked for his help to take Mashhad. Nader agreed, and Tahmasp honored him with the name Tahmasp Qoli Khan, meaning slave of Shah Tahmasp. Nader had built a strong army by taking in soldiers from defeated enemies. So when Tahmasp and Fath Ali asked for his help to take Mashhad, Nader had 30,000 troops. Fath Ali had fewer than 2,000. Tahmasp had even less. When they surrounded Mashhad, Fath Ali got scared and secretly planned to leave. He sent a message to Sistani inside the city, but Nader found it and showed it to Tahmasp. On October 11th, they executed Fath Ali. Soon after, some of Sistani's officers conspired with Nader to open the city gates. On the night of November 10th, Nader's men entered Mashhad and toppled Sistani. Nader's capture of Mashhad showed how powerful he had become. His army was skilled, proud, and feared, trained to master guns and gunpowder weapons. This meant that many of his troops were taught to wield powerful and accurate muskets that were so heavy they required tripods to use. Nader's cavalry rode strong horses paid for by the state. He trained them to move fast, fake retreats, and strike hard. His elite guards, the Saivaran-i Sultanati, were picked from many Persian and Central Asian tribes. And though he had cannons, Nader liked quick, mobile attacks. He used light artillery and camel-mounted guns called Sambarakshi, which caused great fear in the enemy, especially at short range. With Nader personally commanding up to 200,000 of these troops at times, the formidable Afsharid army soon earned the respect of his enemies and neighbors, the Ottomans, Mughals, Russians, and Afghans. Nader wanted to push out the Afghan occupiers of Persia before fighting the Ottomans or the Russians. But he did not start with the Ghilzai tribe ruling in Isfahan. Instead, he first attacked the Abdali tribe, who had taken Herat from the Safavids in 1716. In the summer of 1727, Nader and Tahmasp marched with 8,000 soldiers towards two Abdali towns northwest of Herat. The Abdali sent 20,000 men to stop them, but failed. Nader wanted to take Herat next. Tahmasp went north to Mazandaran and told others to ignore Nader. Angry, Nader marched back to Mashhad and forced Tahmasp to surrender in December. Nader now had full control of the army, but kept Tahmasp around as a figurehead to gain public support. On May 4th, 1729, Nader and Tahmasp marched to Kafr Kaleh, near Herat. The Abdalis attacked first and pushed back the Persian musketeers, but Nader's cavalry swooped in and crushed them. After more defeats, the Abdalis gave up and swore loyalty to Tahmasp. In Isfahan, Ashraf grew overconfident. But when he heard Nader had taken Herat, he panicked. On September 29th, east of the town of Damgan, Ashraf attacked. Nader faked a retreat when the Afghans attacked. As the Afghans chased down their enemy, they ran into deadly accurate gunfire, forcing Ashraf to flee. On November 12th, Nader beat Ashraf again north of Isfahan at Mersey Court. His soldiers fired non-stop volleys and stormed the Afghan trenches, which allowed Nader to enter Isfahan 4 days later. Tahmasp took to the throne, but wielded no real authority, as Nader forced Tahmasp to give him more power, land, royal regalia, and the right to collect taxes. Ashraf later died in 1730. With the Abdalis and Ghilzais defeated, Nader turned against the Ottomans. In March 1730, he reached Nabahand, near Hamadan. The Ottomans expected a weak army like the old Safavid forces, but Nader's troops were strong and well trained. They crushed the Ottomans at Nabahand and again in the nearby Malaya Valley, liberating much of western Persia. After a short rest, Nader moved into Azerbaijan in July, capturing Tabriz by August. Nader's victories caused fear in the Ottoman army and unrest in Constantinople. A revolt in the royal palace removed Sultan Ahmed III in favor of his nephew, Mahmud I. Nader planned to keep marching north to take advantage of the Ottoman strife, but urgent news came from the east. Herat had fallen again to the Abdalis. The Abdalis marched towards Mashhad, where Nader's brother Ibrahim was in charge. Nader's young son, Reza Qoli, then sent word that, luckily, the Abdalis could not reach Mashhad. Nader then marched over 1,400 miles and reached Herat in April 1731. After months of siege, Herat fell in February 1732. While Nader was gone, Tahmasp tried to win back power. He led an army against the Turks, but met crushing defeat at Kurajan in September 1731. He then signed a peace deal, giving up the Caucasus to the Ottomans. Nader, still in Herat, heard the news and was furious that Tahmasp had thrown away land that he had worked hard to conquer. He went back to Isfahan and deposed Tahmasp in July 1732. Tahmasp's infant son became Shah Abbas III on paper, but in practice, everyone knew that Nader was the actual Shah of Iran in all but name. Part 4. The Napoleon of Persia. With no one left to stop him, Nader told Constantinople to return the land in the Caucasus that Tahmasp had signed away. They said no, so Nader got ready for war. In December 1732, Nader led 80,000 men towards Baghdad. The Ottomans had strong defenses on the Tigris River, so Nader's first attempt to cross failed. But with help from local allies and European engineers, he crossed the river on February 15, 1733. Nader's army surrounded Baghdad. His engineers built 2,700 towers and blocked food from reaching the city, so people inside began to starve. The Ottomans then sent a massive army, perhaps 300,000 strong, to relieve the siege. On July 19th, they met Nader near Samarra. After a hard battle, Nader lost 30,000 men and had to retreat, suffering his only battlefield defeat. The siege of Baghdad ended, and nearby towns fell back to Ottoman control. Nader did not give up. Within 40 days, he raised 50,000 new troops, got fresh weapons, and rebuilt his army. On October 26th, he avenged his defeat near Kirkuk, killing 20,000 Turks, as well as the commander, and took their supplies. He made peace with the local Ottoman governor, but Sultan Mahmud refused to honor the treaty, so the war continued. Before Tahmasp was deposed, he signed the Treaty of Resht with Russia. Russia said it would leave Gilan and Mazandaran and give back Baku and Derbent if Persia defeated the Ottomans. But Russian troops did not leave these places even after the treaty was signed. After Nader removed Tahmasp, Russia recognized Nader's ferocious strength and quickly tried to work with him. But Nader was angry that Russia planned to give back Baku and Derbent only after Persia beat the Ottomans. Nader even warned that he might team up with the Ottomans against Russia. In the summer of 1734, Nader took over Shirvan and Dagestan. He then marched on Ganja, a strong Ottoman fort, and blocked off nearby Yerevan and Tbilisi. On June 19, 1735, the Ottomans attacked with 80,000 men at Yerevan. The Persians took the Ottoman cannons early in the fight. Without them, the Ottomans panicked. Afterwards, Nader's cavalry and ambush broke their lines, and the Ottomans fell back. Nader took Ganja on July 9th with a surprise attack. Tbilisi fell on August 2nd. Yerevan soon followed. The Ottomans gave up and agreed to peace. Soon after, Russia agreed to return all the land it had taken, including the Eastern Caucasus and the Caspian coast. In January 1736, Nader called a council with Persia's highest noblemen and military leaders. Nader suggested that he should officially become Shah of Iran instead of Abbas III, and the council unanimously agreed. On March 8th, Nader Khan was crowned Nader Shah. With threats in the west gone, Nader turned east. In 1737, he marched to Kandahar to fight Hussein Hotak, a cousin of the Afghan leader Ashraf. Nader took the city in January 1738. He treated the local people fairly, which helped him gain strong Afghan allies. After that, Nader set his sights on India. The Mughal Empire in India was once the most powerful empire in the region, but by 1738, it was falling apart. Mughal governors were taking control of large areas for themselves, while factions like the Hindu Marathas and Sikhs were gaining power. Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah only ruled around Delhi, though he did so while sitting atop a great pool of wealth. He had also supported Nader's Afghan enemies. Nader claimed he only wanted to chase Afghan fugitives who fled to India, but he clearly wanted access to the Mughal royal treasury to fund his wars and fix Persia's weak economy. Late in 1738, Nader marched into India with 50,000 troops. After taking Kandahar, he quickly captured Ghazni, then Kabul, and Jalalabad. The Mughal army Nader was to face was huge, with as many as 300,000 troops. as well as thousands of elephants and cannons. But it was slow and poorly led. In early 1739, the two armies met at Karnal, north of the Mughal capital. On February 24th, the battle at Karnal began. At first, Mughal cannons hit Nader's right side hard. He held the line, however, and sent his son Nasrullah to lead an attack. Nasrullah broke through, killed a Mughal general, and took the royal standards. Muhammad Shah then fled, and the Mughals surrendered. After the Mughals lost the Battle of Karnal, Nader's army surrounded Delhi and cut off its food supply. As people began starving, Muhammad Shah offered peace. Nader agreed and welcomed the Mughal envoys, and to show off his power, he sat on the Mughal peacock throne. Nader's troops then ransacked Delhi, taking huge amounts of riches: gold, silver, jewels, camels, elephants, rare diamonds, and thousands of books and weapons. Nader gave some treasure to his soldiers and sent most of it back to Persia. He stole so much that he told the Persian people that they would not have to pay taxes for the next 3 years. But in Delhi, anger grew over the banditry. The people attacked Nader's soldiers and killed around 900 of them. Nader answered with violence. His army struck back, killing around 20,000 civilians. Muhammad Shah begged him to stop, and Nader did. Nader knew he could not rule India. His army was too small, and the land too vast and far away. He made peace by marrying his son Nasrullah to the emperor's niece. Muhammad Shah stayed on the Mughal throne, though not the peacock throne. Nader took it as well, and he even minted coins bearing Nader's name. After 58 days in Delhi, Nader left for Persia. Now that the Mughal Empire was gutted, European powers like the British and French had a chance to move in and take control of India for themselves. After invading India, Nader turned to subjugating the Uzbeks in Central Asia. His son, Reza Koli, had already tried to attack Uzbek land. Nader crossed the Ami Darya River in 1740 with a large army. He beat the Uzbeks at Bukhara, and later fought and killed the leader, Ilbars Khan, at Pitnak. In 1738, Nader's brother Ibrahim was killed by the Lezgins in the Caucasus. In 1741, Nader marched north to punish them. Nader's army left Mashhad in March, but while in the forest of Mazandaran, someone shot at him. He survived but blamed his son, Reza Koli, and had him blinded. Years of war and rebellion made Nader cruel, paranoid, and suspicious. His doctor had left for a pilgrimage, and his health was getting worse. He took money and land from the people, and raised taxes, while also forcing villagers to join the army. At city gates, skull towers formed from innocent victims showed his unpredictable brutality. By the summer, Nader entered the Caucasus with 150,000 men. He took Derbent, but failed to conquer all of Dagestan. In 1743, he fought the Ottomans again. They took towns like Kirkuk, while Nader tried and failed to take Mosul, Yerevan, and Kars. Still, he won a major victory at Kars in 1745, killing or wounding 38,000 Turks. In 1747, both sides agreed to peace. Nader, growing increasingly sick and unstable, sent troops under his nephew, Ali Koli, to crush a revolt in Sistan. But Ali Koli joined the revolt instead. Nader, paranoid, led an army on June 19, 1747 to stop his nephew. Soon after, he turned on his very own guards. Fearing for their lives, 3 of them killed Nader in his tent that very night. After Nader Shah died, Persia broke apart. His nephew, Ali Koli, quickly made himself Shah and took the name Adil Shah. But this did not fix the country, and Adil was overthrown a year later. Nader Shah had spent most of his time at war. He did not care much about ruling or finances. He abandoned the old Safavid government and gave power to the army, which allowed the economy to slow to a crawl. Many people, especially those in Persia's cities, saw him for the usurper he was. Nader's death began nearly half a century of chaos in Persia. The Afshar dynasty now ruled only a small area in Sistan. At the same time, the Zand tribe, led by Karam Khan Zand, took over western Persia. Karam Khan chose not to call himself Shah, instead using the title Vakil, or regent. He ruled in the name of a puppet king, Ismail III. Ismail was the last grandson of Sultan Hussein, which meant that when Ismail III died in 1773, the 500-year-old Safavid Empire and dynasty ended for good.